Hi, I'm Sara and welcome to Hen Corner. Today we're roasting vegetables, and we're roasting vegetables not in a traditional Sunday roast style. We're roasting softer vegetables and that can be used as a main dish, as a side dish or as a salad. And today's vegetables, based on what we've had in our box recently, our veg box, we've got butternut squash. These are great because they're winter squashes, so this would have been harvested last September, but because of the hard skin, it can stay good to eat for a long time. So when we're trying to grow our own fruit and vegetables, I always try to grow some good winter squashes because they will last a long time. Then something that's a bit more of a summery vegetable, I've got pepper here, which will give sweetness and more of a Mediterranean feel. A couple of onions, some thyme for flavour, salt and pepper and oil, and we're going to roast them in a roasting tin. Now if you can roast any kind of vegetables, so obviously roast potatoes and parsnips, which we think of as more of a roast dinner sort of thing. Carrots roast fine, most root vegetables work fine. Well, pretty much most vegetables full stop work fine, but just some tips in when we're roasting them. If you're looking at a hard vegetable, particularly the root vegetables and vegetables that you would normally eat cooked, then they will need a longer time in the roasting tin, because you do want them to, obviously not just in the roasting tin but in the oven, because you do want them to cook through and be soft when you're eating them. But things like peppers and courgettes, onions and things that more of the Mediterranean vegetables and things that you would quite happily eat raw or lightly cooked, they don't need so long to cook, and they're softer, they're not as hard as the root vegetables, they don't need quite so long in the oven. So Mediterranean vegetables, if you did a tray of Mediterranean vegetables, chop them up, good sized pieces, oil, salt and pepper, maybe a couple of cloves of garlic. That can go in quite a hot oven for maybe 20 minutes, half an hour, it depends how much you've actually got in the tin. But if you're looking for harder vegetables, you wouldn't normally have a mouthful of raw butternut squash. If you're looking at harder vegetables and root vegetables, they do need a bit longer for cooking, so you'd have your temperature down a bit. Now because we're having a bit of both, we're going to go for a slower, longer roast. So I'm going to cut up this butternut squash and the onions and the pepper, and then we're going to have them in the oven at 180 degrees for about 40 minutes. And then once they're cooked, we're going to today we're going to put them into a Bulgur Wheat salad, which we may actually serve hot. We've got some roast lamb in the oven at the same time, but it works perfectly as a side salad. Having it cold, you can make a batch and have it 2 or 3 days in a row, keeping it in the fridge. So first of all, I'm going to show you how to prepare the butternut squash. I'm going to cut it in half and take off the knobbly end, the stalk. And as I've always said, I always keep kitchen towel to hand, so we can keep the trimmings and the bits that we're not going to use on the kitchen towel, and then it's easy just to put it straight into the compost bin. Then I'm going to cut it in half. You want to have something that's manageable to work with. And then with butternut squash, you can roast it with the skin if you want, but I like to remove the skin, and I'm just going to do it with a potato peeler. So potato peeler to get the skin off, and then we can cut it into chunks. I'd say probably inch cubed. That's very old-fashioned of me, isn't it? 2.5 centimetre squares, cubes. So one end of the squash is predominantly, so the top of the squash nearest the stalk is predominantly all fruit. I call it fruit rather than vegetable because fruits have got seeds inside and we eat them with the seeds inside, whereas vegetables, we eat them before they've seeded. So if you think of a carrot, the seeds come on the top of the carrot stalk much later, after you would have eaten it. Not that it's still in the ground after you've eaten it, because you've eaten it, but at the end, when the carrots finish growing, the seeds are produced. But for fruits, such as tomatoes and pumpkins and courgettes, the flower occurs first before the fruit, and the flower is pollinated, and it's the pollination that triggers the fruits being produced. So these are fruits. The bottom end of the butternut squash has got all the seeds inside, so you can simply scoop them out with a spoon and cut it and peel it as before. So I've just got a couple of little seeds in the end here, scoop those seeds out onto my paper towel so that can go into the compost bin. So this piece of squash, I'm going to cut it into nice chunks and pop it into the roasting tin. And then I'm going to cut up the pepper. So you can see I've got chunks this sort of size going into the roasting tin. That's just got some oil in the bottom. Here we go, just the chopped peppers go in. Again, peeling the onions, popping it onto the paper towel so it's easy to go into the compost bin. Don't need the heads and the tails. Onions, I'm doing it into wedges. So you want them to stay in chunks similar sizes to the other vegetables so they can cook at a consistent temperature and a consistent time, so they all cook together rather than having the onions cooking much quicker than the others. So I've got my butternut squash, I've got my red pepper, and I've got my onion there. I'm going to drizzle it with olive oil, salt and pepper. Oh, throw the thyme in, just throw the thyme in. And when you come to use the roasted vegetables later, you can take the thyme stalks out. Bit of salt, bit of pepper. And that's going to go in the oven at 180 degrees for about 30-40 minutes. Now, whilst that's cooking in the oven, we're going to get some bulgur wheat on the go. And for the bulgur wheat, we are going to use a saucepan. In the saucepan, we're going to put a stock cube. I'm going to put a vegetable stock cube. If you haven't got vegetable, you've got chicken, that's absolutely fine. Stock cube goes into the saucepan. Then I'm going to top that up with boiling water on the hob, bring that to the simmer, and then I'm going to pour in the bulgur wheat. We've got dried bulgur wheat. Pour it in, and then make sure that we've put the lid on top of the saucepan and bring that to a simmer. It probably only needs about 10 minutes if that, and then you can turn it off, turn the heat off, and let it continue to steam as the bulgur wheat will absorb the moisture from the stock solution. Then when the vegetables are roasted, it's a case of tipping, and the vegetables are nice and soft, it's a case of tipping the bulgur wheat through the vegetables, and the bulgur wheat will pick up the last of the juices and oils that are beautifully flavoured with the roasted vegetables, and you have yourself a lovely side dish that you can serve with a hot meal. You can serve it cold with a salad, or you can simply add more ingredients to it to make it your main dish. And you can add, sometimes we put in some chickpeas, sometimes we put in some feta cheese, and you can make this your main meal of the day by making sure you've added in some protein along with the lovely roasted vegetables and the carbohydrate you've got in your bulgur wheat. So this is our roasted vegetable salad, but you can serve it hot, you can serve it cold, you can make it in advance, make it last all week. Don't forget to keep it in the fridge if you're when you finished eating it, because we don't want it hanging around at room temperature and making you ill. But lovely to see you, and we'll see you next time. Join us on the journey.